Hey everybody, it's Mike. This video is for all of those folks that have asked me over time about my recording techniques, what type of recorder do I use, my guitars, my amplifiers, my pedals, and so on. And so I thought I would take some time out to do that today and take you through a little tour. I also want to thank everyone for all of their kind words and comments with regard to the last 3 songs that I released. Breathe was back in late December, and then I released Rainy Day, and last night I released I Know. So thank you very much again for all of your support, and with that, let's begin the tour. A question I get asked often is, what is my DAR, D-A-R, or a digital audio recorder? And what I use is a Tascam 2488 Neo. It's a 24-track digital recorder. And this unit is about 10 years old. And I have the newer unit, the DP24, but I'm still using the 2488 since it still works wonderfully. And I absolutely love this machine. Basically, think of it as a standalone computer that is dedicated to making music, to recording. And I have a monitor hooked up to it, but that is not how the machine comes. You actually have to buy an adapter, a video adapter, to hook up a flat screen. Otherwise, you got to work with this little screen right here. It's coming into focus now. It's a little hard to see. So obviously, it's a lot easier to look at that. Okay? So that is the recorder. And you can see it has all of the channel inputs, and I have them all labeled. And so I have dedicated instruments, as you can see, to each one of those channels. So channel 1 will always be vocals, and then I have a black cable coming out of channel 2, which would be a microphone. Red cable is another microphone, and I would use these when I am recording guitars through the amplifiers. And I'll show you the amps in a moment. Okay, so that's the recorder, and I think the DP24, the newer one, I think you can get it for about $500. So it's really not that expensive. A lot of folks have asked me about the drumming, and I use a drum machine. So I use an Alesis SR18. I used to use a Zoom RT223. That was an older unit. I loved that drum machine, but it crapped out on me, so I switched to the Alesis. I do have the newer Zoom, which is the RT323, and it's not as good as its older counterpart. But the reason why I have 2 is because the Alesis is used for the actual drum patterns. And the Zoom, I like the percussion on this one better. So when you hear tambourines or shakers, that's coming from the Zoom 323. Again, the drum patterns are coming from the Alesis SR18. And for effects, the Tascam has built-in effects. And if I click here, single, and we look here, we could see on the last song, which was I Know, I was using some delay. But if I go here, you can see all of the different effects that the Tascam includes. It really is a wonderful machine. And there's also mic effects. So you have vocal compression, a de-esser, a vocal exciter, and also a noise gate. And then there's multi-effects. And you can see here that there's just a litany of effects that you can apply to your music. Okay, so I won't go through them all. Obviously, we'll be here all day. The way I use effects, I try to use them as tastefully as I possibly can. I don't like to oversaturate the music with effects. That's never been my thing. So I personally think it's important that when you use effects, you use them in a way that enhances the song. Just gives it a little touch of this, a little touch of that. I also have a lexicon, and let me see, let me turn it on here. She's going to start. Okay, and there you go. And you can see, I don't know if you can see this, the lighting's not too good over here, but I have an assortment of effects. It's also a 2-channel effects rack. And I really like the reverb effect and the tape delay, along with the other delay effects on the Lexicon. So that is inputted into the Tascam. All right, and then you'll see up here, I have a couple of pedals. This is an MXR noise gate, and this is a Spectra compressor by TC Electronics, and this is used for the bass. So when I play the bass is direct into the machine. I don't play it through an amplifier. So the noise gate will eliminate any noise that might be coming through the pickups, and the compressor ensures that when you play your notes, they stay within a certain bandwidth. Okay, so let's move over to the keyboards now. The piano that I use is an electric piano. It is a Yamaha P155, and this is about 10 years old. I used to play a Roland, I think it was a 5500. I think that was the model. It's the same model that Elton John used to use way back in the day when he played live. But the Roland finally crapped out. It just got too old. I did fix it a couple of times, or I sent it out to get fixed, but it got to the point where it wasn't going to work anymore. So about 10 years ago, I bought the Yamaha, and you will hear the strings on some of my songs, and the strings come from the Yamaha along with my Casio, which I'll show in a minute. This is a very nice piano. All of the keys are weighted, obviously, and I really enjoy playing it. All right, so over here, I have 2 pedals, and these are for the vocals. Both pedals are by TC Helicon. This one is a autocorrect. Some people might refer to it as an auto-tune. And there is a huge misnomer about auto-tuners or autocorrect for vocals, in that people will say that you can sing completely out of key, and this type of device will put your vocal in key. And that is not true. The way this device works is you have to sing in key. However, if you are a little flat or a little sharp with your notes, what this machine works to do is to fix that note. All right, just to nudge it up or nudge it down a little bit to make sure that you hit the notes. Now, the thing is, to do that, I keep it at the noon position right here, and that's the pitch knob. And that gives you a more natural adjustment. If you turn it all the way this way, that's when it starts to sound a little ridiculous. You start to get that flutter in the vocal, and that's not something you want. So if you have this type of device, what you want to do is you want to get a natural type of sound out of the correction. All right. The TC Helicon voice tone is a magnificent pedal. This is used to create the harmonies. Now, on many of my songs, I will do the harmonies myself without this unit. But what this unit allows you to do, especially if you press for time, because it really does cut back the cycle time on the harmonies, doing those types of vocals, is you will sing your melody line, and you can adjust whether the harmony is above or below your vocal. And the thing with this unit that needs to be explained is that this is also not magic. So when you're singing into the microphone, you have to be singing your melody in key. Otherwise, the harmonies are going to be out of key. So these are 2 very helpful pedals. They really are. I would say if you're playing live, I would highly, highly recommend both these units. Now, these have been around a while, so I think this pedal here I've had for several years. I don't know if they have a new one or not. And this one as well. So I'm sure they're still available. And if not these specific models, then I'm sure they have newer models. Okay? So, again, very helpful to have in a recording studio. All right, let's move over now to the Casio. And here's my keyboard that I use for a lot of the string arrangements. Like I said, I will use the Yamaha for certain string sounds, but I really like some of the string and orchestration effects on this Casio. And this is a Casio CTK 2080. It's not an overly expensive unit. I think I got it for, I don't know, $200 going back, way back when. And I'm sure there are newer models now, but this works great. Again, with these types of keyboards, some of the effects that come out of them are, kind of hokey. But I found with this one, the string and the orchestration effects are actually pretty good. So a lot of what you hear on my songs when you hear the strings is this unit here. It's the Casio. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at some of the amplifiers now. Okay, so my amplifiers are pretty straightforward. The days of having the big 100 watt amps that I used to have, they're gone. I've sold all of those. So I have 4 amps. And this one is, I think Monoprice makes this. It's called Stage Right. It has a Celestion speaker in it. And the beautiful thing about this little amp is it is a tube amp. And it has that old tube warm sound. And I really like playing through it. And then down below is a Fender G-Deck. This is the 30 amp model. And these, I believe, are some of the best amps that Fender has ever put out, especially for practice. Why? Because it has a built-in rhythm machine, built-in drums. So you can pick a drum pattern, which I'll show you in a second, and you can play along to it. So pick the drum pattern, pick the key, pick the tempo, and play away. It's a great, great little amplifier for those that are looking to practice. But the other great thing about the Fender G-Decks is they have a wonderful selection of amps that have been sampled. And these are the amps that I use whenever you're hearing my guitar playing on the songs, especially the rhythm guitar playing, okay? Now, my go-to, believe it or not, is not the 30 amp, but it is the 15 amp G-Deck. And this little guy I've been using for a very long time. I did replace the speaker. I put a Jensen high-end speaker in it. I took out the stock speaker that came with the amplifier, only because, well, I wanted a better speaker in the amp. But it is a wonderful little amplifier. I don't think they make them anymore, so if you're going to buy one, you're going to have to get them on the used market. They don't go for that much. Maybe you could pick it up for $100, maybe $125, but a great little unit. So let me just show you how this works as far as the drum machine goes. Okay, so hold on one second. Okay, so I turned the amp on, and if we go here, we push amp, and you can see that it says British 3. That's my favorite setting right there. And then you can add effects. You see none there. You turn the dial, and you can see different types of delay. You have flange, you'll have phase, you'll have wah pedals, a bunch of stuff. It's really a very, very good amp. And then as far as the drums goes, that's what I wanted to show you. You press drums, okay? And you can see if you press it again, you'll see the tempo, you'll see the key. So you can dial in the key using this knob over here to the right. And right now it's in the key of E. And if we press start stop, you get a count. And you have a bass, drums in the key of E, and you can play along. This is why I love this little amplifier. If I just want to fiddle around with my guitar, or if I'm writing a new song, what I'll do is I'll plug the guitar in, get the drum pattern going, and then play along and see how it sounds. So this is the amplifier, believe it or not, this little 15 watt G-Deck that you hear on most of my songs. And all you need to do is just put the mic right here in front of the speaker, and you're all set. And it goes right into the Tascam. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the guitars. I guess we'll start with the acoustics first. This is my Fender Villager. It's a 12-string. And I love playing 12-string guitars. They have that really full sound to them. You don't hear them a lot these days, though. This is my Martin. You can see there. Custom. It's the X Series. And this is my go-to acoustic guitar for my recordings. The tonal quality is really very, very nice. And I really like using this guitar whenever I'm recording and the song requires acoustic guitar. The other guitar that I have is, this is an Epiphone, and it is the John Lennon Signature Series. I don't believe they make this guitar anymore. Let's see if I can get the pole out of the way. And this has a darker tone to it. It's not as bright as the Martin. And I have used this on songs as well. So what I might do is I might double track the acoustic guitar where one channel has the Martin with its bright sound, and I will then go to the second channel and mic up the Epiphone with its darker tone. And so we have two guitars, but with different tonal qualities. And it really does fill out the song nicely. Okay, now let me just show you some of the electrics. Okay, so before I get started with the guitars, I should mention that I do have a very large guitar collection, probably embarrassingly so. But hey, I love guitars, and as some of you might know, I do guitar repairs and I refurb old guitars. I really enjoy putting back together and bringing back to life the old guitars from the late 1960s and 1970s that were manufactured in Japan. They're called made in Japan guitars. They might be referred to sometimes as the lawsuit era. And the reason why they're referred to as the lawsuit era is because back then the Japanese guitar makers were essentially cloning Gibson guitars. And then there was a lawsuit between Gibson and Ibanez going way back. And that's when the lawsuit era basically came to an end. And a lot of these Japanese guitar manufacturers went on to make their own guitars with their own designs. Ibanez is a perfect example. Others basically just folded over time and they disappeared into the history books. Okay, but the standard T here is a beautiful, beautiful guitar. This is a Gibson LPJ, so it's a Les Paul style guitar. This one happens to be the model that is the 120th anniversary edition of this guitar. Great pickups in this guitar. Great pickups. The next guitar is my Gibson Studio. This guitar saw a lot of play on my first album, Leaving Dystopia. A very nice guitar. I've had this a long time. This one here is a Gibson. It's referred to as the Paul II, and this is from 1996. And this is part of my collection. This guitar is very difficult to come by in this condition. So I'm very happy to have this hanging on the wall. The next guitar is also a Gibson. It is a Gibson Melody Maker, and the Melody Maker has, well, this type of Melody Maker has one pickup. It's a bridge pickup, and that's a Seymour Duncan dual rail. Very, very hot. Great guitar to play, lead guitar playing. For those of you who are wondering what type of guitar bridge that is, you guitar players out there, that's a hip shot piano bridge, and it's a replacement for the wraparound bridges. I'm not a big fan of wraparound bridges, so this hip shot does a wonderful job of actually putting the tailpiece back on the guitar along with having adjustable saddles, which means, again, for the guitar players out there, you can intonate guitars that come with wraparound bridges. One of the problems with guitars with wraparound bridges is trying to intonate the guitar, get the pitch correct, the tuning correct at the 12th fret. That hip shot makes that process easy. This is my Epiphone Traditional Pro 3. I love gold top guitars, and this is also a really nice guitar. I really like playing it. Now, my go-to guitar for the last 3 songs has been this Strat. And you can see it's got some finger grunge on it. Yeah. And that's from playing, obviously. And it has a dual rail humbucker. And that is one hot pickup, let me tell you. So it's a great guitar to play for lead guitar playing. For those of you who are guitar players, you know that some guitars just feel better in your hands. It's something that is very difficult to explain. You can pick up, 5 guitars as an example, and play them, and one will just feel right. And for me, this is one of those guitars. So my collection is, like I said, rather large. I have 60 guitars, and I would say probably around 5 to 7 of them are guitars that really just feel good in the hands. And again, like I said, this is one of those guitars. This is my Hofner bass, my Beetle bass, and I played this on many, many songs. But I also have a Squier jazz bass, and that was the bass that you heard on Rainy Day and I Know. The difference is the Hofner has a softer, poppier type of sound, and the Squier jazz bass has a much deeper resonance. So when you play the songs back, if you play Rainy Day and I Know back on a playback system, a stereo system, using some old terms, that have some very good speakers, you will hear some booming, booming bass. Very clean, I should say. Not muddy, but just a really great bass sound. But both basses have great sound. It's just a matter of what type of sound you're looking for when you're doing your recording. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the pedals. I've been asked that. How do I get that sound, that distortion sound in some of my songs? And let me show you some of my go-to pedals. Now, I have a lot of pedals, and I mean a lot of pedals. And one thing that guitar players do, especially lead guitar players, also rhythm guitar players, is to go through a bunch of distortion pedals and overdrive pedals to get that sound that just resonates with you. And so over the years, I've had a number of pedals, and I still have many of them that I use and I enjoy. But the one that is my go-to pedal is this Sonic Cake, and it's the Sonic Cake Black Hammer. And the distortion out of this pedal is wonderful. In fact, on the lead guitar playing on Breathe, that is this pedal. Many times, as I mentioned before, when I was taking you through the G-Deck amp, I will use the amp samplings from the G-Deck, which are great as well. But from a lead guitar perspective, I don't think anything beats this pedal as far as what's in my collection of pedals. And what you can see is the pedal is not only a distortion pedal, but it has delay, it has chorus, and it has a boost. This is very helpful if you're playing live and you're going to go into a lead guitar part for the song. When you push the boost pedal, it increases the volume so you can be heard over the mix. Okay, that's a very good little feature on this pedal. A trem pedal, and trem pedals, I love them when you're adding a little spice of, let's say, electric guitar, clean electric guitar, and really trying to fill out the sound and give it some substance. And this is a Joyo, or Joyo, some people might pronounce it, and this is a very good trem pedal. And I think it's about $35. That's all it is. But these are the settings I use from the last song, I Know. The intensity was at noon, and then I had the rate set to 3 o'clock. Okay, so I should also mention the Sonic Cake, I believe, is around $100, $95 to $100 if you buy it in the U.S. If you go to a site like AliExpress, where you can buy it direct from the manufacturer out of China, I think it's like $65. All right. My wah pedal, and I have 3 of them, but by far my favorite is my Jimi Hendrix, and this is the model JH1, and it's made by Dunlop, and this is a fantastic wah pedal. So if you listen to the song as an example, Soldier of Love, or Give Me Love, the wah sound that you hear is from this pedal. Okay? Now, sometimes to get the distortion from my guitars, I won't use a pedal. I will just turn the gain all the way up on the amplifier. So I set the volume, and then there's a gain switch. I turn it all the way up, and I will do it that way as well. Okay, so there's a number of ways, I guess, is what I'm saying, to get distortion out of your guitar. But going back to this pedal, this is a very, very good pedal. I highly recommend it. All right. So the last thing I'm going to show you is the vocal microphones, and I'll be right back. So over the years, I have tried different microphones, and the ones that I have landed on are the MXL microphones. This is the MXL 770. This is a wonderful microphone for vocals and also for recording acoustic guitar. It's really hands down one of the best microphones I've ever used. Now, another MXL that I use is this one, and this is the V67, and this is another wonderful condenser mic. So you can't go wrong if you are using the MXL V67 or if you're using the 770. Okay, and you can see there I have a number of cables. All right, folks, so that's basically it. And again, I'm doing this because I've been asked a number of times about what the equipment looks like, what kind of amplifiers, guitars, pedals, and all that stuff. So I thought I would put this together. All right, have a great day, and the comment section is open. Bye now.